Fresh meat in shiny tin. The landing platform on Zenthra, 7 stank of ozone, oil, and self-importance. A dozen alien battalions lined the field, all gleaming in polished chrome armor, eyes narrowed behind HUD visors as the Terran dropship descended like a stubborn brick. When the human soldiers emerged, a ripple of snickers rolled through the alien ranks. They clanked when they walked. The matte black exosuits looked like relics from a scrapyard. Bolted plates, visible hydraulics, no plasma sheen, no neural sync ports. The kind of gear you'd expect to see in a mining colony, not a joint galactic military exercise. "By the stars," muttered a Valari officer, her crystalline armor glittering in the sun. "They look like walking tombstones." Corporal Eli Mercer heard her. He didn't flinch. His helmet stayed clipped to his belt, revealing a scarred face with the half-smile of a man who'd seen too much and worried too little. Behind him, his unit moved in formation, 7 humans, each one wearing armor that could stop a missile and drop a building if you gave it a running start. As they approached the welcome delegation, a small insectoid officer fluttered over, translator chirping. "Greetings, Terran unit. We are honored by your unique design philosophy." Eli glanced at Lieutenant Yara Chen beside him. She offered a diplomatic smile. "We're happy to be here, Lieutenant Varen. Earth looks forward to learning from our galactic allies." The insectoid buzzed in amusement. "As do we. Though I suspect our engineers may faint when they see your power ratios." Yara's smile didn't flicker. "It gets the job done." The briefing chamber was full of posturing. Each species had brought its best, armor that moved like liquid, neural-linked drones, cloaking fields that shimmered like heat mirages. Eli's squad stood quietly near the back, looking like they'd just stepped off a battlefield instead of a shuttle. Varen opened the joint exercise schedule. Simulated war games begin tomorrow. Urban combat, hostage extraction, and orbital drop scenarios. Non-lethal protocols active. A snide voice cut in. "Will the humans be using kinetic weapons? Or just club their way through the walls?" Eli turned to see Sergeant Varek Thal of the Valari. 7 feet tall, his armor gleamed like a glass sculpture wrapped in plasma coils. His smirk oozed superiority. Eli tilted his head. "You know what they say about glass houses, right?" Thal scoffed. "What could Earth possibly teach us? You've barely left your own solar system." Another human, Ramirez, murmured, "Just enough to learn how to kill everything in it." The room quieted. Yara stepped forward. "We're here to observe and participate, not compete." Eli added, "But if this turns into a contest, don't bet against the ugly suits." Later, in the Terran bunkroom, Ramirez kicked off her boots and collapsed onto the cot. "I forgot how smug the Coalition is." "Smug," Eli replied, removing a tool from his leg joint, "until they get hit in the teeth. Think the war games'll shut him up?" Eli's expression darkened slightly. "If they fight like they look, maybe. But if anything real happens..." He trailed off. Ramirez raised an eyebrow. "You feel something?" He nodded once. "There's always a tremor before the ground gives out. I don't like the way the AI stuttered on our landing clearance. Or the fact that no one briefed us on contingency evac routes." She sat up. "You think this is more than drills?" "I think these people think war is a light show." He stared at the armor stand across the room, his suit, scarred and heavy and ugly. "But we know better." In the dark of night, while most of the base rested under glowing bioluminescent trees, Eli stood outside the barracks, smoking a contraband cigarette. Overhead, the stars blinked cold and silent. He muttered to himself, "They mock what they don't understand." From his back, the armor hummed softly, a power cell recharging, outdated and loud. A technician once called it a fossil. Eli called it trustworthy. A shadow moved nearby. "Yara, you can't punch a smirk off every alien face tomorrow," she said. "No," he replied, flicking ash. "But I can make sure they know what a real warfighter looks like." She studied him for a moment. "Just don't start anything we can't finish." Eli gave her that half-smile again. "Who says I ever finish anything?" They both laughed quietly. But high above them, just beyond the station's long-range scanners, something began to shift in the void. Unseen, uninvited, and not part of the simulation. War games and warnings. By midday, Zenthra 7's wargame arena buzzed with activity. Dozens of species deployed into the simulated urban zone, a sprawling fake city layered with traps, holographic civilians, and terrain meant to test every military doctrine in the galaxy. Above it all hovered observation drones. Spectators watched from towers and feed rooms, eager to see which species would dominate the showcase. The humans marched in last. Clad in armor that still looked like construction equipment with rifles bolted on, they moved in tight formation, disciplined, methodical, unimpressed. Simulation start in 30 seconds, a voice echoed across all comms. Eli Mercer stood beside Lieutenant Yara Chen, who keyed her HUD. Urban, clear and hold. Non-lethal engagement only. They want us to show restraint. Eli grunted. Funny. I thought they wanted to see what we're good at. Just don't shoot someone who'll start a diplomatic incident. No promises. Behind them, Ramirez whispered. Bet 10 credits Valari are out in 5 minutes. Too generous, someone muttered. The timer ticked down. 3, 2, 1. The sim flared to life. The Valari squad went first, shimmering armor gliding through the central avenue like ghost fire. Their weapons fired energy pulses with a soft whir. Drones zipped above them, feeding real-time battlefield data into their neural nets. Eli watched from cover in a fake building, eyes narrowed. Fast. But they rely too much on their sensors, he said. Ramirez nodded. They don't check corners. Don't watch blind spots. Pretty. But brittle. Just then, a trap triggered. A simulated IED exploded under one of the Valari units. 3 soldiers dropped out of the sim instantly. The rest froze for half a second. A half second too long. An ambush squad, Avarek Lancers, descended from the rooftops, flanking them. Valari comms went wild. Yara's voice stayed calm. Alpha Squad, flank south. Bravo, clear alleyways. No assists unless requested. Copy, Eli said, already moving. The humans hit the field like a steel avalanche. No fancy maneuvers. No energy weapons. Just solid tactics, leapfrogging cover, suppressing fire, brutal angles of approach. Eli's squad breached the side of a structure with a breaching charge so loud it rattled the entire simulation zone. They cleared floor by floor, non-lethal rounds, taser gel, flashbangs. Efficient. No flare. One alien observer whispered, "It's like watching predators sweep a forest." When they reached the simulated hostage room, 2 other species were already pinned down outside, arguing about access codes and sensor interference. Eli didn't argue. He walked up, dropped a boot into the doorframe, and kicked it in. His armor groaned. The door flew off its hinges. 3 enemies inside were neutralized in under 5 seconds. Outside, one officer gasped, "You could have hacked the door." "Or we could win," Eli muttered. Halfway through the exercise, something changed. Drones began glitching, feeds flickering with static. Yara's HUD blinked red. Interference in the signal feed. Then the system-wide alert came. Simulation paused. Technical issue detected. Please hold position. The map on everyone's display went black. Did we break the game? Ramirez joked. Eli's face was stone. No. That's not a glitch. Above, the sky, normally a controlled dome for the sim, shimmered strangely. Clouds stuttered like a corrupted video file. Yara tapped her command. "This is Lieutenant Chen. Do you copy?" Static. Unidentified energy signatures detected. External contact breaching orbital layer. Ramirez raised her rifle. That doesn't sound like a drill." Explosions boomed in the far distance. Real ones. Not simulated. The kind that shook the earth and shattered windows. From the east, one of the alien squad sprinted back, yelling in broken coalition standard. "They're not part of the exercise. We're under attack." Eli dropped his visor. The HUD flickered on with a boot sequence screen, no AI assistance, no network sync, just raw manual controls. Old school. His voice crackled over squad comms. "All units, Formation Alpha Black. Load live rounds. If it moves and it's not breathing oxygen, drop it. Are we authorized? Yara asked. No one's giving orders now. It's just us. Already, the skies were darkening. Black forms descended from above, sleek, spike-covered dropships, designs unknown to the Coalition. Valari, Avarek, even insectoids began falling back in chaos. Their shields fizzled. Their smart weapons screamed errors. Human armor? Still standing. Still ready. Guess we'll find out, Eli muttered. If they still think our armor's funny. He slammed a fresh mag into his rifle. Let's show them what obsolete looks like when it's angry. The metal hits the fan. The first alien drop pod punched through the sky like a meteor on fire. It slammed into the far end of the training zone, obliterating a tower and tossing glowing debris across the sim landscape. Then came the second, and the third. Within moments, Zenthra 7's polished military facility turned into a battlefield. Coalition soldiers scrambled for cover, most of them still in training gear. Their advanced armor sputtered, overwhelmed by unknown interference. Energy shields flickered and died. HUDs collapsed into static. Human comms, disconnected from the Coalition net, stayed intact. Multiple contacts inbound, Yara reported. Visual confirmation, hostile units deploying from drop pods. They're not Coalition. Eli raised his rifle and flicked the selector to live. Guess the sim's over. From the smoke, the enemy emerged, tall, angular figures encased in segmented alloy. No faces. Just glowing slits where eyes should be. Movements too perfect. Too fast. Drones. Ramirez asked. Something worse, Eli growled. Hive-synced war forms. The invaders moved with cold efficiency, sweeping the area with plasma arcs. Coalition troops fell like dominoes. Valari soldiers shouted for AI support. Nothing came. One tried to activate his exosuit's shield. It shorted out and detonated. The invaders didn't pause. But the humans didn't panic. Cover arcs. Tight lines. Eli shouted. We hold them here. The Terran squad snapped into formation like a reflex honed over fire and blood. Their clunky suits anchored into the pavement with footlocks, bracing against impact. The first drone charged. It met Eli's gauntlet mid-air. He ducked the strike and drove a serrated knife through its chest plate. Manual, mechanical, unforgiving. Sparks burst as he ripped the blade sideways. Frag out! Ramirez yelled, hurling a low-tech grenade into a cluster. The blast vaporized 3 invaders. The aliens hesitated, processing. And that's when Eli smiled. They can't figure us out. We're not in their files. Yara gunned one down at close range. Her analog rifle fired solid slugs. No plasma, no smart tracking. Just velocity and violence. She turned to Eli. Coalition command just went dark. Then we're command now. All across the battlefield, the difference was obvious. Coalition troops, trained for clean, efficient wars, fell back. Their systems betrayed them. Their suits locked up. Their drones failed to distinguish friend from foe. But the humans, their armor was ugly. But it worked. No AI to hack. No energy fields to fry. Just titanium, Kevlar, hydraulic muscle, and soldiers who knew exactly what war smelled like. Eli's squad pushed forward. Clear the northwest bunker. We need elevation, he barked. Inside, they found a cluster of Coalition officers trying to override their failing systems. You need to evacuate, one gasped. They're jamming our quantum links. No time, Yara said. You have weapons. They're locked to biometric sync. Ramirez stepped in, ripped one open, and hotwired it in 30 seconds. Now it's not. She tossed it to the stunned Valari officer. You shoot with your finger, not your brain. Try it. The officer looked at her like she'd invented fire. An hour passed. The sky burned red. The invaders weren't unstoppable, but they were close. For every one the humans dropped, 3 more came down. They had air superiority. Numbers. Technology. But they didn't have desperation. They didn't have Eli. "We're getting overrun at Grid 9, a voice yelled over comms. "Hold your ground," Eli replied. "Fall back to Sector 4. We'll meet you there." Yara looked over a broken balcony at the chaos below. "We're barely holding." "I know. You got a plan?" "Yeah," Eli said, chambering a fresh round. "Make them bleed. Make them wonder why the primitive species keeps killing their best troops." He stepped out into the open. A dozen drones spotted him at once. Target locked. But before they could fire, his squad unleashed hell from both flanks: machine gun fire, thermite charges, brutal close-range bursts. Eli moved like a tank with a soul, crushing one drone underfoot and blowing another's head off with a point-blank shell. Across the field, other coalition units saw it happen. And suddenly, the humans weren't the joke anymore. They were the anchor. The storm in the fire. As dusk fell, the Terran squad pulled back to regroup. Their armor was blackened, dented, and streaked with ash, but they were alive. Yara slumped against a wall. "That wasn't a skirmish." "No," Eli agreed, wiping blood from his visor. "That was an invasion." Ramirez leaned back, exhaling. "Still think our armor's outdated?" Eli looked out over the burning horizon. "I hope they keep thinking that," he said. "Because next time, we won't be waiting." Broken pride, bulletproof truth. The fires burned through the night. Zenthra 7, once a glittering jewel of interspecies cooperation, now lay cracked and bleeding under a sky choked with smoke. Coalition flags hung in tatters. Drone carcasses littered the ruins. And everywhere, black smudges where too many had died. Eli Mercer stood on a rooftop, helmet clipped to his side, face streaked with soot and blood. The sun was just rising, a weak, pale orb through layers of ash. Below him, what remained of the coalition forces gathered at the central compound. Emergency medical units whirred and limped, patching up what they could. Most of the elite alien forces had scattered during the attack. Some simply vanished. A few had abandoned their posts altogether. The humans, still here, still standing. Banged up, bruised, 2 wounded, but none dead. Lieutenant Yara Chen stepped beside Eli, arms folded across her chest. "They're holding an emergency council in 2 hours. Going to assess the breach in protocol." Eli didn't look at her. Too late for assessments. "Agreed." He finally turned, voice low. "You think they learned anything?" Yara considered. "Maybe. Maybe not what they wanted, though." She gestured toward the remaining humans, Ramirez reloading mags for fun, Collins hot-wiring a comm tower just to see if he could get it working, Juno from logistics literally duct-taping a coalition med drone back together. "What they saw," she said, "was soldiers who don't break." Inside the shattered auditorium, the emergency council began. Dozens of surviving officers from across the coalition races sat in a semicircle, wrapped in bandages, guilt, and confusion. The ornate banners of peace behind them now looked like decorations for a funeral. Varen, the insectoid liaison who once joked about human engineering, addressed the room. "We were unprepared," he said. "We assumed too much about what war would look like." One of the Valari captains, armor cracked and shimmering no more, added bitterly, "We put our faith in elegance. In technology. We thought if our systems were perfect, we wouldn't have to be." The room was silent. Until the doors opened. Eli and Yara walked in, armor scratched raw, boots still dusty from combat. They didn't salute. They didn't wait to be recognized. Yara said, "We held the line while your systems crashed. That's not a brag. That's a warning." Varen buzzed anxiously. "Your armor. We never thought." "That was the problem," Eli interrupted. "You never thought. You calculated. Measured. Assumed." He stepped forward, eyes scanning the room. "You judged us because we looked crude. Because our armor wasn't linked to an AI. Because our bullets didn't bend around corners." He paused. "And yet, when everything else failed, it was those same primitive tools that saved your lives." Another silence. Then the Valari captain finally asked, "Why does your armor work when ours didn't?" Eli didn't smile. His voice came quiet but sharp. Because we built it to survive mistakes, not to avoid them. Hours later, the field hospital buzzed with renewed energy. Coalition's troops, once too proud to ask for help, now approached human engineers for lessons in low-tech repairs. A Valari medic watched in awe as a Terran showed him how to manually restart a failing power cell, with a screwdriver and grit. Ramirez sat on a crate, skin patched with biofoam, laughing with two insectoid sharpshooters as she demonstrated how to fire a human railgun. The recoil knocked one flat. They laughed harder. Yara stood beside a rebuilt comms tower, nodding as new channels opened, communications restored, thanks to Colin's stubbornness and an old analog satellite dish he scavenged from the trash. They were still here, still holding the line. That night, Eli found a quiet place by the scorched simulation field. The wind smelled like burnt metal and broken pride. Yara joined him, sitting with 2 ration bars in hand. She handed one over without a word. "Think they'll ever stop mocking the suits?" she asked after a while. Eli chewed, swallowed. "Doubt it." A pause. "But they'll remember who saved them." A flicker of a smile crossed her face. "Legacy through attrition?" "Legacy through fire," he replied. "Theirs melted. Ours didn't." They sat in silence a while longer. The stars were out now. Still cold. Still distant. But somehow, not so alone anymore.